Good morning. Have you ever watched Chopped? It's a show where restaurant chefs open up a basket and there's four ingredients inside, and they must use those four ingredients and create a meal for some judges in a short period of time. And whoever does the best job, of course, wins. And I think they usually win around $10,000. Well, I was watching a Chopped competition the other day where the judges were actually competing, and they were competing to win $100,000, which then they in turn would donate it to feed children in America who don't receive enough food. They asked one of the judges, Marcus Samuel, I think his name is, why it was so important for him to win that $100,000 to help feed children. He said that at one time he was a hungry child. He grew up in a mud hut in Ethiopia, and when he was 5, he and his sister got adopted into a family. And get this, he said it was more than just important to him to feed children. He said it was his duty. Since he had been rescued from a life of starvation and hunger, he said it was his duty to make sure that no other children would go hungry and that all children could get the same help that he did. Now, this story came to my mind while we were singing one of the hymns in our songbook last week. Listen to these words. Rescue the perishing, duty demands it. Strength for our labor the Lord will provide. Have you been given a new life in Christ? Have you been adopted into God's family? Have you been saved from a life of destruction? Then duty demands that you return the favor. Duty demands that what we have been given, we give back. 1 Corinthians 9:16 says, For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of. For necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me, if I preach not the gospel. Paul said it was necessary for him to share the gospel, to share Jesus with others. In other words, he was saying, it is my duty. It is our duty to do the same. Have you heard of something called paying it forward? The idea of pay it forward is that when someone does something nice for you, you pay it back by doing something nice for someone else. It's called paying it forward. For example, you're in the drive-thru at Starbucks, and when you pull up to pay, the barista says, the car in front of you paid for your order, you don't owe anything. Now, you could just say, wow, thanks, that's awesome, and drive away. Or you could do what is called paying it forward. And that means that because the car in front of you paid for your coffee, you in turn would pay for the coffee of the car behind you. You would pay it forward. Someone did something nice for you, and so you do something nice for someone else. Did someone share the gospel with you? Did someone tell you about Jesus? Then it is your duty to pay it forward. Who have you told about Jesus? Who have you shared the love of Christ with? And I'm not talking about just being kind to them, although that is a good thing. I'm talking about telling them about heaven and how they can get there. The Bible tells us in Romans 10:13 that whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And that is great news. But the very next verse tells us this. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? So the Bible tells us that if they call on Jesus, they will be saved. They will go to heaven. But then it continues by telling us that it is our duty, our responsibility to make sure that they hear. It is our duty to pay it forward. And what is it that we are to pay forward? Well, whatever it was that we received. We received the gospel, so we are to pay the gospel forward. Now, how is it that a chef who was saved out of a life of starvation feels that it is his duty to make sure that other children get the food they need to live? And yet we as Christians fail to realize that it is our duty, because we have been saved out of a life of destruction, to pay it forward by sharing the gospel, Jesus sharing with others. It is our duty. This week, share the gospel with someone else. Pay it forward.